Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one of the largest and most popular icons of the 80s and 90s, with their unrelenting charisma, legendary roster of characters, and oozing with charm in every iteration they are a part of. From the early days of the cartoons and toys to modern times with numerous media appearances, pop culture merchandise, and most importantly for what we're talking about today, a brand new booster set in our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. What's up, my party dudes? My name is John from the MTG Thoughtcast, and for this edition of the Super Quick Deck Tech, we are showcasing a wild and zany build idea showcasing everything exciting from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in this modular mashup pile, the Party Wagon. So what does a modular deck construction actually mean? If you've ever played with Jumpstart or the Silver Border kit called Unsanctioned, the concept here is very similar. We have multiple themed collections of cards that when combined together create one deck. To utilize this idea to its fullest, our leaders in each of the colors is going to be the 5 legendary creatures with the partner character select ability from the Turtle Power Commander Precon. What this results in as far as statistics is 5 sets of cards reaching 33 cards in total, our commander, spells, and basic lands of each of the 5 colors. Choosing any combination of the two brings the deck total to 66 cards, 2 commanders, spells, and 24 basic lands of the chosen colors. The remaining 34 cards are brought in from a shared pile called the Layer, a collection of colorless spells and fixing lands, bringing the total of the deck up to 100 cards. Now that we know how the deck comes together, what do we actually use to make each pile? To keep on theme with the setting that we are using here, any and all card prints from TMNT style are included. A bulk of each of these piles comes from the aforementioned Turtle Power Commander, but we are also pulling pieces from the main booster set, the source material bonus sheets, and even a few of the exclusive promos to the pizza bundle to flesh out as many of the staple gaps as we can while staying as radical as possible. Let's begin then with the collection of cards called the Layer, as it's the main skeleton that you'll see every game and where most of our acceleration comes from. Your classic staples are in here like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Chromatic Lantern, but they're also joined by new cards such as Coin of Mastery and Exploding Barrel to help ensure each color mashup can reach any mana cost for spells. These are also joined by excellent fixing lands with reprints like Fabled Passage, Grand Colosseum, Exotic Orchard, and City of Brass to help us get exactly the colors we need when we need them. The Layer also features most of the equipment to help the turtles suit up for any battle. Favorites like Commander's Plate and Umezawa's Jitte combine with new cards like Skateboard for the fastest turtles you've ever seen. Overall, the Layer is going to help be the support that any of the combos of characters can use to help make a flow of gameplay and consistency between strategies. But now let's start talking about some of those strategies with our first pile, White, featuring Leonardo the Balance. Leo is 3 and white for Legendary Mutant Ninja Turtle, 3/3 and partner. Whenever a token you control enters, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, only once each turn. He also has an activated ability for Wooburg that says creatures you control gain Menace, Trample, and Lifelink until end of turn. For the purposes of this deck idea, we're not leaning too heavily into this activated ability. However, with some of those fixing lands and rocks that we had just mentioned about as part of the Layer, it's not impossible to get the mana needed to activate that ability. What we care about more is this upper half of growing our entire team every time we create a token. The token can be anything from creatures to food to the brand new mutagen tokens, and even copies of real cards. One of the most powerful of the combo options, as evident by this one being the only other option out of the original precon that you can run as a partner commander while keeping the deck legal to play. Leo's pile is a variety of cards who care about each of his 2 parts for his trigger, counters and tokens. Agent Bishop, as a prime example here, helps keep the counters going by putting 2 on each of up to 2 targets, including himself. Leo's Guidance acts as a combat trick by putting counters on up to 3 creatures and untapping them. Mighty Mutanimals is almost like Leo, where they create a 2/2 mutant as they enter and put counters on a target creature anytime the alliance triggers. Another great one that has similar abilities to Leo is Sally Pride, Lioness Leader. 3 in double white, legendary cat mutant rebel is a 2/4. And on enter, it creates an X/2/2 red mutant creature tokens, where X is equal to the non-token creatures you control. And whenever she attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So we have a pretty clear cut and dry strategy here of using a combination of tokens and counters to achieve a consistent means of growing your battlefield for more efficient combat. These reasons are why Leo's pile makes his half of the deck an excellent choice no matter which color combo you're going with. His overall strategy and plan of attack is just smart and effective no matter what color combination you're planning to play. Donatello the Brains jumps in and takes lead of the blue pile. 2 in a blue for legendary Mutant Ninja Turtle, 2/4 with partner, and if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus a mutagen are created instead. If you're not actually familiar with what the mutagen token is, it's a new non-creature artifact token that has an activated ability of 1 tap and sacrifice at sorcery speed to put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. So Donnie here, like Leo, wants to have tokens come in under your control. Only this plan is to have the token creation go wider by making each instance of 1 or more tokens turn into those tokens plus a mutagen. So having triggers that make multiple single tokens at a time help create you more mutagens, which in turn allows you to have more creatures get started with the +1/+1 counters if they don't already have one to get going. 2 cards who work with this ability exactly how we want to is these different cards featuring April O'Neil. Live on the Scene is actually another card with character select, so you could take this pile of blue with her at the helm, but I did not build it with her in mind, so do this at your discretion. Anyways, her card is 1 in blue for a legendary human detective as a 2/1, and says whenever a mutant, ninja, or turtle you control enters, investigate, meaning you create a clue token. April the human element, on the other hand, for 3 and a blue, says whenever a player casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, create a mutagen token. Both of these cards are exactly the kind of token creating triggers Donnie wants, as each trigger is separate, so multiple extra mutagens can be created all in one turn. Other cards in this pile help us make these tokens, like Ooze Spill, a counterspell that creates a mutagen token. Donatello Gadget Master can sneak in and make a token copy of an artifact you control. And Here Comes a New Hero draws cards and can make a token copy of any creature equal to whatever you set the X value to be. These get paired together with some very cool 1/1 counters synergy cards like Ray Fillet, Wave Warrior, Irma, Part-Time Mutant, and Wave Goodbye to make Donnie's pile take the approach very similar to Leo's while being more control-focused, giving you the time and resources to create an excellent battle strategy. Black was a very fascinating build, as Splinter the Mentor is quite the odd legend who certainly can do cool things but lacks a little bit of synergy between all the other color piles. Splinter himself is 1 in a black for a legendary mutant rat ninja, it's a 2/2 with partner, Menace, and whenever he or another non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield, create a mutagen token. We've already covered from both white and blue that the shared theme amongst the turtles here is tokens and counters. Splinter cares mostly about the non-token ones as they leave play, which isn't a bad idea, but is tougher to make work within the context of these cards. What this means, though, is that we are leaning more on the self-sacrifice and the new mechanic from the Ninja Turtle set, Sneak. Notice here that Splinter says that you get the mutagen token if a non-token creature you control leaves the battlefield. This means that we are rewarded for casting spells using their sneak cost, which is quite the hefty one in black, but is great that sneak is across all 5 colors. Shredder Unrelenting is exactly the kind of spell we want, a cheaper sneak cost that grants great abilities on enter or attack. One of my favorite ones in here is Shark Shredder, the Killer Clone. 2 in double black, legendary Shark Octopus Ninja. It's a 4/4 with first strike and sneak of 3 and double black. Sneak, as a reminder, will put a creature in tapped and attacking, and that's relevant for his combat triggers, as whenever he deals combat damage to a player, put up to one creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, also tapped and attacking that player. This is able to happen because of the first strike, as he connects but you're still in combat, so the reanimated creature can come in and attacking and cannot be blocked since we are already at the damage part of combat. Sneak is also quite fascinating because we can find the ability on non-creature spells, such as Shredder's Technique and Splinter's Technique. The same idea applies where these can be cast during combat by returning an unblocked attacker at the declare blocker's step, but the dynamic of losing points of combat damage in favor of a cheaper spell is quite the puzzle to figure out when you're trying to fire them off. With Splinter the Mentor down, these spells cast by Sneak also give us mutagen tokens if we pick up non-token creatures with the ability. With some interesting potential to keep looping the same few Sneak cards to and from your hand, Splinter's Pile is a fascinating strategy of deciding which permanents stay in play and which ones are used for tricky evasion and combat reduction. For myself personally, I think one of my favorite of the color combos is with Raphael the Muscle and the red pile of cards. Raph is 4 and a red for Legendary Mutant Ninja Turtles, a 4/4 with partner, and says that you double all damage that creatures you control with counters on them would deal, and when he enters, you create a mutagen token. This is just an absolute beat stick in a box, and comes with the first mutagen to get either himself or another creature ready to smash, and makes an impact the turn that he comes into play, as he does not need to be attacking for the double damage to apply. There are overall less cards with red that provide the counters to get going though, so this pile focuses more on getting large creatures into play that are already great on their own, and then get even better once Raph's mutagen or anything else we talked about before can get the counters on them. Raphael is actually my favorite combination with Leonardo, since the synergy of Leo coming down on turn 4, followed by Raphael on turn 5, means that the mutagen token entering and Leo puts a counter across your entire team. But what about some of those heavy hitters I was talking about? The one I really like is Slash, Reptile Rampager, with his ability to send damage to each opponent on Alliance trigger, and comes with a 2/2 mutant to immediately start firing that off. One creature putting more bodies or tokens into play helps a lot across all of our combo strategies. Toka and Razar unsupervised is one of the others who can get counters on themselves in red by seeing other non-token creatures leave play while also creating treasure tokens. A very cool one we get from the source material bonus sheet is Silverclad Ferocidons, an 8/5 with Enrage that makes each opponent sacrifice a permanent every time it takes damage. Some of the other cool cards that come in this pile are the ones that affect the combat step, like how Raphael does, by either making other creatures hard to block or assigning extra damage, things to that nature. Fast Forward is a great example of this, though. 4 and a red for a sorcery that costs 1 less for each opponent you attacked this turn, and it says to goad all creatures your opponents control. This card is excellent on 2 aspects. One of that obviously being that all of these creatures will be swinging in at each of your other opponents, so combat damage and creatures dying is going to be happening. But a second one is that when it comes back around to your turn, all of their remaining creatures should be tapped down so that you have a free path to victory by hitting them extra hard. Casey Jones' Asphalt Hooligan is another superb one that gets real funky during the combat step. 2 and a red for a legendary human berserker is a 2/2 with double strike, which, by the way, is independent of Raph's double damage trigger, so that's super cool. Anyways, he also says that for 4 generic, you double his power until end of turn, but any player can activate this ability. Start convincing your opponents to help smash in at one another by getting their help to activate that cost a few times. Casey could be hitting in at a single person for upwards of 12 plus damage almost immediately after he's played. Overall, I think this collection of red cards is a slam dunk paired with any of the other colors, as it provides excellent damage output for both creatures and non-creature spells that help push victory forward while still being synergistic with the ideas of the other colors that they want to do. 1/1 counters, tokens, and permanents leaving play. He's very cool, but also rude. And last up in color order is green with Michelangelo the Heart. 1 and a green Legendary Mutant Ninja Turtle, it's a 2/1 with Partner, and Trample and Raid the Fridge. At the beginning of your second main phase, if you attacked this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control and create a food token. This is neat because he's one of the cheapest commanders we've talked about so far, and he can get in and start doing those triggers right on time as larger spells come into play later. This pile overall leans in heavier for the 1/1 counter synergy, with adding in cards that provide extra counters or permanents that utilize the counters that they have on them. A card like Level Up is an excellent example here, as it has an impact the moment it comes into play and continues to grow a creature every time it attacks, like, say, our commander Michelangelo. High Score provides additional counters as we place counters on creatures and adds extra card draw at the end step if we have the strongest creature in play. Leatherhead Iron Gator being just one of the silliest in here by coming in with haste and an attack trigger to put 2 1/1 counters on each creature you control, not even the other creatures attacking alongside them. I really like this card Study the Classics for its multi-purpose effects. 2 and a green for a sorcery that it puts a 1/1 counter on a target creature, then you double the 1/1 counters on that creature, and you gain life equal to the 1/1 counters on it. I mean, that's just kind of insane, right? You give a creature maybe already sitting on 4 or 5 counters or so, it adds another counter, then doubles it up, then you gain life equal to the counters? That's like 10 to 15 life just from one single spell. The green collection, like red, has some of the largest creatures that are just excellent to accelerate towards regardless of what your strategy is trying to do. Ground Chuck and Dirtbag is one of my favorites of these though. 4 and a double green Legendary Ox Mole Mutant, an 8/8 with Trample, and that when you tap a land for mana, you add green. This kind of acceleration is insane with all of this double mana that you can use towards some of our other big spells in here like Rocksteady Crash Courser, Michelangelo's Technique, and Mutagen Man Living Ooze. Mikey's pile has a very similar vibe to Leo's as an overall excellent shell for any of our combos, having synergistic pieces for any team up while also being the better color for ramp. We do have acceleration in the layer, but only green gets these extra ramps cards like Transdimensional Bovine or Cultivate. These types of cards are not always required for having a winning strategy, but any bit of extra fixing means that some of these pairs that we use are playing larger creatures and can have those come into play more frequently. If you end up trying this mashup idea, I'd highly recommend one of your starting games be a combination using Michelangelo's pile. But the party has to come to an end, and we've reached the final level of the game. To recap what's happening here, this is a modular building EDH deck, whereas we have 5 collections of cards for each of the mono colors, helmed by a legend with the new partner ability, Character Select. We can choose any 2 of these colors to create a 66 card collection of 2 commanders, 24 basic lands, and 42 spells, 21 of those spells in each of the color we choose. These piles are then combined with a base collection of 12 fixing lands and 22 colorless spells to bring the whole deck count up to a grand total of 100, playing 2 commanders and 36 lands. The idea here is that you get to pick any 2 of your favorites and combine them together with the base colorless cards to craft an all-new deck every time you play. To stay on theme with the setting, we've chosen to play cards that have been printed with art specifically across the TMNT product release, most of them coming out of the Turtle Power Precon, but other hits from the main booster sets and bonus sheets appear here as well. However, this idea does not need to stay contained to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as with the numbers I have provided to you, you can make any adjustments to the spells or lands to include your favorite cards across the multiverse. Hey, anybody gonna make that New York City deck with the Marvel cards? In conclusion though, if you enjoy a shakeup with your decks and want to have something fresh every time you play, a modular deck construction like this is such an excellent way to flex your deck building expertise and allows you to have more cards to have a home, as the entire bulk collection here is upwards of 200 cards. This is also an excellent way to have anyone who is a fan of Ninja Turtles or is a new player into Magic try out the Commander format, as it acts almost exactly like a board game in a box that the players can choose exactly what theme they want to play. If you'd like to browse all 5 of the themes plus the layer, I have a deck list link in the description box down below. I do highly recommend turning on tags though, as each of the colors are sorted out this way, but you do you. While you're down there, if you enjoyed this deck tech, consider dropping a like and a comment about your thoughts on Magic and Ninja Turtles. If you're not already, consider subscribing to follow along for new videos like this, plus all of our other Magic content such as our weekly podcasts and gameplay streams. We genuinely wouldn't be doing what we did if it wasn't for all of our fans of the channel, so thank you to everyone who already is a subscriber. Videos such as this are also made in part by sponsors of our channel, Heavy Play. Innovators of excellent tabletop accessories such as the RFG deck box, the RNG dice tray, and the ETB playmat. Smooth, quality finishes line sturdy and durable casings, all fitted with their Equip Mag system to allow all of these tabletop items to snap together for strong and reliable protection and transportation. They also feature the curved sleeves with rounded corners and quality construction for the most comfortable in-card protection. You can visit heavyplay.com/MTGThoughtcast, linked down below, or use the checkout code MTGThoughtcast to get 10% off your entire order. I use my ETB playmat and dice box every Friday night I visit my game store, and it is the most efficient way to transport your deck safely and reliably from seat to seat. Thank you once again to Heavy Play for sponsoring our content. And thank you, once again, to you for joining me deep down in the sewers for another installment of the Super Quick Deck Tech. We hope you enjoyed this crazy construction, and we'll see you all back here real soon. Cowabunga!